Hello, 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 everybody. It's your boy Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, here today with part 1 of my new series, Why I Love Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. If you're wondering why I'm talking like this, and it's a bit of a difference than most of my other videos, it's because today I have a bit of a sore throat. So I have to talk a little bit differently because of that, so I can actually make this video. I have a bit of tea next to me to help. I didn't have any honey, so I had to go with the maple syrup. Bit of an odd choice, but kinda works, would recommend. In this series, I will break Endwalker down to its characters, because to me those are the most important parts, and I'll go bit by bit to explain why Endwalker was one of my favorite gaming experiences. Because let's be honest, if this was one whole video for all of Endwalker, it would probably go on for about 200 hours. In our inaugural episode, how about we start off with possibly the most polarizing part of Endwalker? You know him. You love him. Our enemy. Our friend. Our mirror. Zenos. Yea. Galvus. Or should I say, Zenos Viator Galvus. Oh yeah. You know him. You love him. When we will look back on famous quotes, historians will look back on a few lines and realize just how brilliant certain writers were. Talking, of course, about things like one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. We'll look up some other ones. You have brains in your head. It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be. I literally just looked up famous literature quotes for that. I will wear him in my heart's core, aye, in my heart of hearts. A test of your reflexes. These are all quotes that will be remembered through the ages, to have changed a generation. But to me, Zenos is an interesting one, because I have made a video back on New Year's about why I like this character so much, and in defense of the final choice you make with him, because I think it was the perfect finale for this arc of Zenos. But let's break him down. No, not like the Overwatch character, and explain why exactly he works so well from a storytelling perspective. Let's get a little bit comfy, get a sip of tea, and let's talk about arguably my favorite character in Final Fantasy XIV. There was always something about the character of Zenos that made me gravitate to them, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It's not that he has a complicated backstory or motivation, or that he is unpredictable. Hell, I predicted everything he'd do for the past 2 expansions. My predictions for Endwalker and his story are up on the channel. Link in the description if I remember to put it there. And I don't think it's just because he represents the desire to overcome greater and greater challenges as gamers. I don't think that's why he was put into this story, what he perfectly represents. I think he represents a similar point, very similar, but a slightly different one nonetheless. Whereas Emmett and the Ancients represent nostalgia for glory days long gone, and Venat represents hope incarnate, and the ability to keep pressing forward no matter how hard it gets. Zenos in a strange way has a message of his own, and an answer to Meteon's question. He doesn't want or need some grand reason to live, or some legacy to pass down. He lives for the moment. He lives for personal satisfaction. We can all agree he goes too far. Duh, he is an antagonist, after all. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a point on some level. It's important to fight for a better tomorrow, and to keep pressing forward in the face of insurmountable odds, but he serves to remind us what it's all for. Because at the end of the day, it's important to find joy in what we do, despite how hard that can be from time to time. Despite the seemingly unscalable walls we sometimes have to climb, we have to be able to take something out of it that we like. that brings us happiness and purpose. And it's nice to be reminded of that every now and then. And sometimes it's okay to just have a bit of fun. Our final fight with Zenos, if you were an alpha chat and chose one like me, basically was Zenos and us taking a vacation, if you will, and doing something that we wanted for once. Like how Alize and the Scions kept talking about what we wanted to do when all was said and done. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue with you that Zenos took the path of personal self-satisfaction. Just a bit too far. In fact, that's the point of Alize laying into him in Garlemald. But the underlying point remains. And it's brought to a head with his final confrontation with us after the Endsinger fight. The path Zenos walked only netted him 2 moments of pure joy. The Royal Menagerie and the end of days. Well, end of the universe, but you get my point. And despite wanting to win in the end, he still lost. Just like Alize said he would. He showcases what can happen when you take that selfish desire for pleasure too far, and how it can destroy everyone around you, and you still end up dissatisfied. But our Warrior of Light had a freaking blast, saving the universe from a bird apocalypse into having a freaking hell in a self match against our best friend at the edge of space. It's important to be able to take the time to find happiness and joy in life, because that's what we were fighting for after all, throughout the entire MSQ. Ever since we had that little carriage ride at the start of A Realm Reborn. That's the end goal. And I find it pretty poetic that after we finally stopped the end of days and we turned hope to Meteon, we finally got our one-on-one, our true one-on-one, without interruption and without a giant dragon transformation. Look, I'll level with you. Whether they decide to close the book on this character or not, I'm personally thoroughly satisfied with Zenos' storyline. They clearly left enough doors open to have him re-enter the story if they want. And there's still stories that can be told with this character, to be sure. But either way, I'm satisfied. Zenos had a complete arc, and I'll always disagree fundamentally with people that say it would have been better off if he had stayed dead in Stormblood. He went from a decent and fun antagonist to someone truly memorable to me, and provided a satisfying touch to the Endwalker story. He made the characters around him better by his mere presence. The Garlemald plot is one of my favorite in Endwalker, and that story would have been fundamentally different, and not as tragic, if it wasn't for Zenos, and the actions that he took for his own selfish desires. The development of Jullus and Quintus, as well as the common distrust held throughout the remnants of Garlemald and its citizenry, would not have been as poignant without the backdrop of all that pain and suffering being the direct result of Zenos' monomaniacal actions in his pursuit for his moment of euphoria with the Warrior of Light. He only cared about creating a conflagration, a moment cut out of time, with us, where he could finally find some joy in his life, and the characters around him developed and changed because of that. He, to me at least, is what I like to call a support character. Not that he's throwing out buffs or whatnot, but that his mere presence spurs drastic change and development for the rest of the ensemble of characters in the story's cast. What complexity he lacks in terms of motivation or backstory that other antagonists and characters in the game have, he makes up for in the complexity of the ramifications of his actions. Think of all the characters in the story who are impacted in some form by Zenos. Fordola, Yotsuyu, and Gosetsu as a result. All of Garlemald, Varus, Jullus, Quintus, the Scions, etc. And sure, those characters could have still been good without Zenos, or the same story told to a degree without Zenos. But to me, Zenos adds an element to those stories that I feel we are better off having. All that complexity and intrigue birthed from a madman's monomaniacal desire in the words of Lise, to feel something. Zenos is the epitome of a character taking things too far. But at the same time, so is the Warrior of Light to a degree. Really think about it. The Warrior of Light spent all their time, canonically, not counting the RP some of you may have done in the hot springs of Kogane. He spent all their time focused on saving the world and their friends. Really, they were only able to take a second to address their own mental state in the Dark Knight story. And that one quest in the Shadowbringers patches, where you chill for approximately 23 seconds with Thancred and Enoyanje, before being thrust further along into their adventures. I feel that there was a subtle lesson the Warrior of Light learned from Zenos in the end, and to a degree from Renan and Emmett as well, at least in the end. But I don't think that detracts from what they learned from Zenos. In fact, I think it bolsters it. It's okay to be selfish every now and then. To adventure just for the sake of adventuring. To find ever stronger trials to overcome. It's okay to be selfish every now and then. To do what we want to do. Not just working themselves to the bone for the sake of the world. I think it's a case of one extreme interacting with one other extreme. And winding up in the Aristotelian golden mean. Or Aristotelian, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. A middle ground, if you will. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Or maybe it's a case of death of the authors, the birth of the reader. But to me, the Zenos character and the story told from him is a positive message in the end. Wrapped in a bittersweet shell. Of being able to find joy in the chaos that life can be. And to me, I quite like that message, and how it was delivered in a hype-up package. Whenever he was on screen, I was hype, and that's another element to story that I think is valuable. You don't need every character to be an emotional Niagara Falls. Sometimes it's nice just to have someone who is an open book, and wants to be read. And that's going to do it for part 1 of my series about why I loved Endwalkers so much. Thank you all for tuning in. Please leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the character of Zenos, for I know he's a bit polarizing, isn't he? I think we can all agree. And what your interpretation of his character and his story were. Do you think I'm overanalyzing just a bit too much? Is your case of death of the author is the birth of the reader a bit different than mine? I'd love to know. I'd love to read your thoughts. And make sure to leave a like and subscribe on this channel and on this video. It really helps support your boy. Really helps support future content on this channel. And I really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day. I'm going to go rest on my throat now. Stay safe out there, everybody. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
So let there be no way back. From that temptation, I sunder us. No more shall man have wings to bear him to paradise.